that could be a potential. So I hate to say that they shouldn't be going after additional businesses that maybe aren't in the city if the opportunity lies there. So I just want to make sure that as we're talking about this, that the two really don't have to mirror each other. Yes, the city should have control over that and say into what they're doing, but electric's kind of a unique.
Yeah, but the problem is we can't furnish electric utility service to properties that are not annexed within the city of Gardner.
Why can't we?
Because that is...
Kansas Corporation Commission won't allow it.
Yeah,
Right.
We're limited by that.
And
We're not attempting to.
Yeah, but if we're running, but if, and you know, my concern is that I think that from the standpoint of making economic development decisions, I think that there needs to be a coordinated effort on the part of all the departments of the city, including the Electric Utility Board, as part of that discussion. We've got lines that are running out east on 175th, for example, and although that property is annexed, there is no development that can take place there until we have other utilities run out there. I mean, we've got water needs, we've got wastewater needs, we've got sewer lines have to be, constructed. And
roads and intersections,
and
islands, and
exactly.
yeah, I understand that.
So I mean, I think that if we're going to be looking at the electric utility as a tool of furthering economic development, I think that it's very important that the city and the board work together to be on the same page, so that when they're building out infrastructure, they're in concert with our comprehensive plan and with our economic development plan and everything else. Because as a utility, they can't provide as a public utility of the city of Gardner, they cannot provide service outside the city limits.
So I think, Steve, to kind of reiterate, I guess, what Larry, if that's the case, if then there shouldn't be a separate economic, this whole collaboration, is the board to collaborate. I guess what I look at is the city's economic development or comprehensive plan is exactly then what the EUB would follow. There wouldn't be a need for a separate plan.
Well, I think that the comprehensive plan is supposed to be a map, and economic development strategy is more involved than just looking at the map. It is about trying to get people to move to town.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'm of the opinion that having, an ex officio seat on the Economic Development Committee for, a member of the Electric Utility Board or whatever future iterations might be, would probably be advisable.
So either way, though, we take economic development out of it. Sound good?
As being unique within their control.
Right. In other words, that should no longer be within their powers or in their ordinance.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
It should fall under a global city.
Should it be crafted in such a way so that they do have the opportunity to make unique decisions for their organizations, but there is an oversight involved? It's not to say you can't pursue, nor can you engage in any sort of economic development actions because that's outside of your scope, or is it you may, working within our community development plan, but there's also ways for you to, just like you want to equate it to tax abatements. Well, yes, the policy is for 50%, but in certain circumstances, you can go beyond that. So they have the power to maybe enter into those discussions with potential developers or otherwise, but there's an opportunity then where they don't have to wait for us or they don't have to work within that, so they still have the freedom to operate as a business, because I think most of us would still agree at the end of the day, when we look at all the options, going back to where it was before, it's operated more efficiently since it's operated in this manner. It just needs to be revised. So they still need to have, I think, some freedoms to be able to do some things within that, perhaps with final oversight, just like we would do any other development, to come back and say, okay, we've actually done all of the reviews. Here's our cost analysis, cost-benefit analysis. We believe it should be this, and now we're just looking for approval to present this to the customer. Rather than saying, you can't do that, you have to come through whatever our EDC happens to be at the local level. It allows them to still essentially promote business and be able to operate efficiently and move things not at the pace of the city if they don't happen to have the same goals at any point, but still be able to move forward and bring that up and say, we'd like to, just like we did tonight with annexation that needed to be done. There was a solution, we needed to annex it, to finalize it. The last step would be council approval to move forward with that incentive package. That's the way I think it would operate most efficiently.
I'm absolutely in agreement with you, Heath. In fact, I believe that an advise and consent role on the part of the council is critical in that whole communication infrastructure we're talking about. I would love to have the UUB being able to initiate those discussions in concert to a certain extent with our community development director and/or a economic development task force, but at the end of the day, it needs to come here so that we can bless it. And that's really what I'd like to
I
see.
think there's some, I hate to interrupt, poor Ryan's going to sit there a long time and watch us visit. I don't know if you want to sit down and you can answer questions from your seat.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you
you certainly
Sorry
can.
about that,
That's right.
Brian.
I don't want to have one of those wedding videos where his legs lock up and he falls asleep, so we'll let him sit down for a little bit.
That'd be rather embarrassing, yeah.
Well, you know, even as you read the economic development portion of the ordinance,
Mhm.
it's totally vague and ambiguous.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
That's why
board
it needs to be
may
clarified.
also develop and implement economic development incentives. I mean, what does that mean? They can use the money that the ratepayers are giving them and go out and buy land and then give it away? Is that possible?
We don't.
Is it possible?
No, it's not clear.
They can certainly, they already have the economic incentive ability to adjust rates,
Mhm.
right? So, I mean, why would we want to give up the tool that we have at our disposal and the one that impacts, development? Why would we leave that to another organization of appointed members? I mean, that could be a lot of money.
Well, I agree with you, Larry. This Section H it's incredibly vague and something that needs to be clarified. But I don't think that taking the ability of the EUB to initiate some of those discussions, if they do have relationships with landowners and things like that, again, in concert with our community development director, because obviously that's a big part of that discussion as well. But I think that this section right here is a very poorly written section. It needs to be revisited.
No, I think that when it comes to economic development, there's been a couple of things. One of which was desire to join the Southwest Johnson County EDC, but another one was to put together a incentive for people that are coming to town. Now that was approved. And the details of that are readily available, but I think that, and it was something that was consistent with what other investor-owned utilities are offering their customers as well.
Yes,
Correct?
that's correct.
So, and I think that maybe as part of a bigger picture, I think that getting economic development riders or something for people that are looking to move here, and that's something that developed by the board, approved by the council. I don't understand why that might not be a good idea, but
Mr. Mayor, could I interject something at this point? And it's not to sway the discussion one way or the other, but another factor that you should consider. Should I step forward here?
please, name and address for the record, please.
Eric Schultz, 936 Cottage Creek here in Gardner, also chair of the EUB. Thank you for the time this evening. One thing that I wanted to add to the discussion here regarding the economic development and something you mentioned, Councilmember Shute, regarding the circuit stretching east on 175th out towards what was supposed to be Lowe's. It was mentioned earlier in the discussion that we cannot serve property that is not annexed into the city. However, the converse is not true. KCPL can serve properties that are within the city limits.
Yes, you can.
So anything that's within the city limits that doesn't currently have service, we're in competition with KCPL for. Hence why that circuit was out there. We wanted to get there first. It's a bit of squatter mentality, frankly. If you don't get there first, they're going to have the rights to serve. So that's something that you should consider as